So Kyle helps gay men stop numbing with things like drugs, sex, alcohol. And we're going to talk about common ways that gay men numb and how to stop.
The most common ways that I've seen are definitely the apps, Grindr or whatever hookup apps, along with everything that goes with that. So sex and all that external validation game. And for me particularly, there was like weed and video games was a big one for me, and Amazon shopping. My ex liked to remind me constantly that I had a Amazon problem.
What a gift.
What a gift. Yeah. That's what it was. It was like gifts every time I came home from work, right?
So
It was
what
like
is numbing? Let's define it.
Numbing is when you are distracting yourself from your life and you're shutting yourself down. And for me, it was all these different things in my life that I didn't like, that I was unwilling to look at or do anything about. And so instead I would turn my brain off with weed or distract myself with scrolling on Grindr when I didn't even want to hook up. Basically aren't facing the things that you don't want. And then nothing changes and nothing gets better. So it's an ineffective coping mechanism, I guess I'd say.
Yeah. Super specifically, like if I'm feeling depressed, I want to sit in front of the TV and eat a whole pint of ice cream, and it stops me from having to notice that I'm feeling depressed. But I'm not dealing with the root cause of why I'm depressed. I'm just numbing it. And so that's not healthy over time. Like my numbing has led me to have an autoimmune disease and get divorced and be an addict. So why is numbing so common with gay men?
I think numbing shows up in all communities, and for gay men in particular, the story that I see over and over again is that people are seeking to prove their worth when we're trying to figure out that we're gay, or like coming out and
like getting bullied at school and getting rejected, and so the self-worth is low.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to like not feel that.
Yeah, it's an avoidance of a lot of pain that it feels like we can't do anything about. So for me, it was people pleasing. And I moved to a city that I didn't want to live in. I was in a marriage that I didn't really want to be in. I had a house and I had the perfect dream job, and like everything outside of me was perfect. And I realized that I had been leading this life of societal expectations rather than anything that I wanted. And I hated it. Of course, I started numbing myself out to it because everything was perfect, but I still hated it. I didn't have any understanding of how to deal with that.
Okay, so I see this as an epidemic. As gay people, we get shamed when we're young. It gives us all this baggage, and then we have all these numbing behaviors. And in my 20s, I was just so paralyzed by them. It's really hard to get out of this cycle. So why is numbing actually so bad?
Like little doses of numbing, I don't think are bad inherently. You had a long day at work and you need to unwind, and you're gonna take the night off, stay in, ignore your friends and watch some funny TV. Like a one-off like that isn't really a big deal. Just like eating a piece of cake or whatever, or having a pint, I don't know if having a pint of ice cream. Having a half a pint of ice cream.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Like even if you have a whole pint of ice cream, if you do it like once every like few months, it's not really that big of a deal. It's not going to do anything bad to you. But if you're doing it every other night, it adds up. And so it's not about having a moment where you like shut off and let your body rest and let your neurology rest. I think that can actually be really cathartic and really healing. But the problem of it and the cost comes in when we're doing it every day. And like for me, when I was doing it every day, I would wake up, I'd go to work, I would do everything perfectly at work because obviously people pleasing, and then I would be exhausted. I'd come home, I would immediately get stoned and play video games until my husband got pissed off enough that I was like ignoring him basically. And then we would do dinner and I'd probably smoke some more and then I go to bed. I was just like, I wasn't living a life. That none of that part of that era of my life was anything that I enjoyed or was even showing up for really. And so the numbing out is just pulling you out of your life. And if you have a chronic need to numb, then you're not really living.
Yeah, I numbed with drugs. I still do sometimes. And it just completely blocked me from having deep connected relationships. I was always high and I was always messy. And so I would meet people, but I wouldn't remember it. So I was missing out on this, like what we had living together on the commune, going really deep. That really enriched my life.
Yeah.
And for a decade, I didn't have that. So let's talk about how we stop numbing. So what I know is you have to first be aware that you're numbing, and then you have to change some sort of limiting belief which is driving that behavior.
Right.
And then you can change your behavior.
Right.
Is that the process?
Yeah, so numbing it's not really about numbing, right? It's about the root cause of the numbing. So you're exactly right. Like we need to dig down into the unconscious mind and find where that numbing is coming from. And the reality that we're experiencing is all coming from our unconscious, like our filters, our belief system. And so if there's some kind of limiting belief, like I'm not good enough or something, then that will trigger those behaviors.
Could you give a specific example of a real client who, like, what their belief was and what their numbing behavior was?
Sure. I'll just use mine. My limiting belief was I am wrong, which is very closely related to I'm not good enough, but we all have our own language that activates this inside of us, right? And on the surface level, I know I'm not wrong, or I know my desires aren't wrong, or that my ideas are, my jokes or whatever, like my life isn't wrong, but I was still operating from that space. So when I was feeling activated in that and I didn't know what to do, I would numb out with like weed and video games.
So what was a trigger that led you to feel like you were wrong? Can you give a specific scenario?
It could have been anything really. If my day at work went poorly, or if I get rejected from somebody that I was like attracted to, or if my partner and I have a fight, or
Got it.
like literally anything. Because this is like an old childhood wound, and like I'm an adult now, and so I'm not living the same life, like my circumstances are the same, but anything that's even remotely close to that old belief or the way that it feels can activate it, and it comes out of your past and projects itself onto your present.
So how do you actually release limiting beliefs?
So there's 1,000 ways that we can go through healing. There's a few tools that I use. Neurolinguistic programming is one where we're just able, there's a bunch of different tools within NLP where we're just able to drop into the unconscious mind and rewrite that programming there.
How?
There's one tool in particular called mental emotional release, and it's really like a perspective shift. And so your unconscious mind stores and organizes all your memories, right? And including the memories where you decided to believe that you were wrong or that you're unworthy or whatever that limiting belief is. And those negative emotional baggage and that limiting decision is stored temporally, which is time-based. And it's either in the past or like right now in the present moment. And if we have a little perspective shift where we put those memories in the future perspective and we're in the past looking at them, it doesn't belong there, and so your brain, your body will disengage those negative emotional beliefs and everything that's wrapped up into it. And
so you sort of talk someone through looking at a memory in a different perspective, and it sort of breaks.
It breaks the story, and
Got
it allows it to dissolve, and you're able to see it from a perspective that like the negative emotion doesn't belong, and so it's like Control-Alt-Deletes the file.
Got it. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And it's a little tricky, and like whenever I talk about this stuff, I'm like, this doesn't make any fucking sense. And then when I go into the experience, I felt it. Like this has worked for me. It's radically changed my life. And so once you have that release, you can come back to your life and you can recount your past, and you'll still see the memory of that time where your mom yelled at you about the thing or whatever, but you're not gonna feel the emotional weight of it anymore.
And that won't drive you to then go and eat a tub of ice cream or smoke.
Exactly.
Got it. So if I'm like getting rid of a lot of my limiting beliefs that are controlling me, and I'm not compulsively driven to all these numbing behaviors, then I can just feel good. I'm not excessively eating or being stoned. I can be more present. I can feel healthy.
Yeah.
This is like a way for you to live a life that just feels good.
Yeah, I think the big factor for me was like because you're still gonna have a bad day. Life happens, right? So when a bad day happens though, I'm dealing with the emotions from that bad day rather than that bad day plus the previous like 25, 30 years or whatever. And so in the second step of this is like really learning the effective coping mechanisms to not continue creating new emotional baggage. It's like when a difficult emotion arises, we like look at it and we handle it in that moment or soon after, so that we're not just like taking on all this new negative emotional baggage, carrying it around for the rest of our lives. So what's a better strategy to managing your life rather than eating a pint of ice cream when you're feeling bad?
I see. So if you get rid of these bad behaviors, you may just replace them with other bad behaviors, and you want to avoid that by coming up with better strategies.
It's like the healing process isn't just release work, is my point.
Yeah.
So we have to do the release work, but then you also have to
fill your life with positive things.
Yeah, or things that are aligned is how I would say it. Because your positive might be different than my positive, so it's what is really true to you. So that's where we have to do the release work first and get that stuff out of the way so that you can get in touch with like your authentic vision of what you really want in your life, and then you take action towards that vision. And that vision could include like what you want to create in your career or in your relationship. And it also needs to include things like, how do I deal with challenges and like difficulties in my day-to-day? And so maybe you want to be a person who is more mindful and has like a meditation practice, or you want to be a person who is really taking good care of their physical health.
Got it. So the consequences of numbing all the time aren't just that you're super numbed out, you're super high, you may be getting a little bit of a beer belly from all the ice cream. The consequence is that you're not able to live this authentic life that feels really aligned in a life that you want. Like for me lately, I've been leaning into relationships. I just went for a run in the park. And this life feels so much better than when I was just like working all the time and then high and hungover.
Yeah, because like you didn't like the life where you were working all the time. You didn't like your job.
Yeah, so I kept numbing to not feel the fact that I didn't like the life, and it was this perpetuating cycle. Okay, so how do people then break that cycle? If someone's deep in that cycle, maybe they're just starting to notice it, what is the first steps they should take?
The most important skill that I've ever learned in my life is how to ask for help. I don't think that we can do this on our own. I've never seen anybody do it on their own. And it's not that you have to have a coach or a therapist or whatever, but you do need community to some extent that is able to support you in walking down the path.
All right, but if someone's struggling with numbing right now and they want like a very tangible technique to start healing, what can they do?
Yeah, I think the first step to any of this would be regulating your nervous system, so just even taking a couple deep breaths. And then the first step to walking down this path of like really healing is more self-awareness. And so I like to say this walk takes absolute candor, like radical honesty, being willing to just look within. And it's okay if it's a little scary or if it feels unsafe in your body to look at yourself and ask yourself, like, what is it about my life that I don't want, that I don't like? It's okay that it feels unsafe. You can just do it anyway. And that's where the deep breathing can come in, and the support with your friends and all those things. To like more tangible tool to like really sit down with yourself in that state of honesty is just journaling. Just start writing without any judgment, without trying to do it perfectly. And if you ask yourself really good questions, that can be helpful too. What do I not like in my life? Understanding the things that are not feeling good. And then what do I really want instead?
I like doing the 5 whys. If you want to go smoke a bowl right now, sit down with a little pad and paper and ask, why do I want to smoke a bowl? Because I'm feeling anxious. Why am I feeling anxious? You just keep asking why, and that can help you get to the root cause, which may or may not be the core limiting belief that you need to change. But having awareness of that is you're on the path to healing it.
Another critical step is looking for and finding a community that is doing similar work. And so if right now you're hanging out with a bunch of people who want to party, that's great. Party friends are great. I have some. And if you want to dig in and heal some things that are disrupting the way that you want to live your life, look for other people that are doing that. There's a lot of different communities that you can find that in, and self-awareness and journaling and leaning into that safe space, and then also finding, even if it's just like 1 or 2 friends that can hold that space for you and that you can hold for them, we all rise higher together. So the community piece is really important.
Yeah. And if you want support, I have an online community for queers who want to heal. The link's going to be in the description. And Kyle and I also created a group coaching program. We'll also link to that. It's for people who want to stop numbing and start living a more aligned life. Thank you for chatting today.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks for having me. Yay.